The first thing they teach you on the Nightline is that you are not supposed to save anyone. You're supposed to keep them on the phone. That's it. Keep them talking until the sun does the saving for you, or until someone with an ambulance and a badge shows up to do the part you can't. You are a voice in the dark. You are the thing between a person and the last decision they'll ever make, and your entire job is to be warm. Warm enough that they stay one more minute and then one more after that. I was good at it. I want you to understand that before I tell you the rest. I was the one they gave the hard calls to. The 3 a.m. calls, the ones where the person on the other end has already stopped crying, because crying is for people who still think talking will change something. I was good at it because I had a reason to be. My reason was named Nora, but I'll get to that. I need you to understand the room first. Picture a strip mall office with the sign taken down years ago, so from the outside it looks abandoned. Inside, 6 desks, gray carpet worn pale in the shape of 1,000 nervous footsteps, and a wall of little phones that glow when a life is on the line. At night, there's only one of us. Just one voice for the whole county, from midnight to 6. That night, in the middle of a February so cold the windows sweated on the inside, I was the one. And at exactly 3:33 in the morning, the phone rang. Here's the thing about our system. When a call comes in, an address flashes on the screen. Not always, only when the number is registered to a landline, which almost nobody has anymore. It's a legal thing. If someone's about to do something to themselves and they go silent, we need to be able to send help to a real place. So the phone rang, and the address came up on my screen, and I read it out of habit before I even said hello. And something in the back of my neck went cold, the way it does when your body knows a thing a half second before your brain catches up. I pressed the headset. Hi, you've reached the Nightline. My name's Sam. I'm here, and I've got all the time in the world. What's going on tonight? Nothing, just breathing. Slow, wet breathing, like someone with a chest full of smoke. Take your time, I said. There's no rush. I'm not going anywhere. And then a voice, small, a child's voice, a little girl, said, "It's cold in here. Can you turn the heat back on?" I looked at the address again. 14 Alder Hollow Road. I typed it into the county property database while I kept my voice level. "It's cold where you are? Okay, tell me about that. Are you somewhere safe right now?" The little girl said, "I've been waiting for you. You said you'd come back." And the database finished loading, and I stopped breathing, because 14 Alder Hollow Road had a red flag on the record. A single line in the flat language of government forms. There was no house at that address. There hadn't been a house at that address for 14 years. It had burned to the foundation, and no one had ever built on it again. You cannot make a phone call from a house that does not exist. You cannot get cold in a room that is a patch of frozen weeds under a February sky. "Sweetheart," I said, and I heard my own voice shake, which never happens. "Can you tell me your name?" The line went dead. I told my supervisor the next morning. Her name was Delia, and she had been doing this longer than I'd been alive, and she had a way of looking at you that made you feel like a child who'd woken her up over a bad dream. "Prank," she said, stirring her coffee. "Or a spoofed number. People spoof numbers. You know that. The address was flagged as a burn site, Delia, since 2011. So a kid found an old disconnected number and it's routing weird. Sam." She put her hand on my arm. "You look like hell. When did you last sleep?" I didn't have a good answer for that. I hadn't slept right in a long time. Not since Nora. I told you I'd get to Nora. When I was 12, our house caught fire in the middle of the night. Faulty wiring in the walls, they said later. The kind of thing that's nobody's fault, which is the worst kind of thing, because there's no one to hate but yourself. I woke up because of the smoke. I remember it didn't look like smoke. It looked like the room was slowly filling with dark water, rising from the floor. My little sister Nora was 6. Her room was across the hall from mine. And I remember standing in the doorway of my own room, and I remember the heat coming up through the floorboards like the house had a fever, and I remember calling her name, Nora, Nora, come to my voice. And I remember her calling back, Sammy, I'm scared, I can't see. And I remember saying, stay right there, I'm coming, I'll come back for you, don't move. And then the smoke and the panic, and my body doing something my mind didn't agree to. My legs carried me down the stairs and out the front door and into the cold and the neighbors and the flashing lights. And by the time I understood what my legs had done, the second floor was gone. I told her I'd come back for her. Firefighters found her in her room under the window where she'd been waiting for me. She'd done exactly what I told her. She stayed right there. She was 6. And her big brother said, don't move. I'm coming back, and she believed me. Because when you're 6, your big brother is God. That's why I work the line. You understand now. Every call I take, I am 12 years old on a staircase, and this time I am staying. This time I do not run. This time I keep my promise to somebody, even if it can never be to her. So when a little girl called me from a burned house and said you'd come back, you can see why I didn't sleep. The next night I asked Delia to let me take the desk alone again. She didn't want to. I told her I was fine. I have never been a good liar, but I have always been a determined one. 3:33 in the morning. The phone rang. I answered before the first ring finished. I'm here. It's Sam. I'm here. I didn't go anywhere. The little girl's voice, closer this time, like she'd pressed her mouth to the receiver. You came back. I did. I came back. I'm not leaving. My hand was flat on the desk to keep it still. Can you tell me your name now? I'd really like to know your name. A pause. Then, you know my name. I don't think I do, sweetheart. Will you tell me? And she said, you used to. You forgot me. Everybody forgot me. I want to tell you I stayed professional. I want to tell you I followed the protocol, the de-escalation, the grounding questions. But something was crawling up the back of my throat, and I heard myself ask a question that was not on any script. Are you in the house right now? The house on Alder Hollow? I never left, she said. You told me not to move, so I didn't move. The room tilted. That was Nora's. That was the exact. I had never told anyone those words. Don't move, I'm coming back. I had never said them out loud to a single living person in 14 years. They lived in me like a stone I'd swallowed. Nobody knew them. Nobody could know them. Who is this? My voice cracked in half. Who is this? The line went dead. I did something you're not allowed to do. I pulled the call logs. I logged into the system with Delia's credentials. I'd watched her type them 100 times, half by accident, and I searched the incoming records for 3:23 a.m. For the last 2 nights, for the number that came from Alder Hollow. There was nothing. I don't mean the call was flagged, or hidden, or restricted. I mean there was no call. According to the system, the line had been silent from midnight to 6 on both nights. No incoming calls at all. The phone I had answered twice. The voice I had heard, the address that had flashed on my screen, none of it had happened. The logs said I'd spent both nights sitting in an empty room, holding a headset, listening to nothing, and talking back. I sat there for a long time with the cursor blinking, and then, because I am a determined liar and a worse detective, I searched something else. I searched the fire. 14 Alder Hollow Road, 2011. There are public records for these things, incident reports. The county keeps them scanned in a database that any morbid person with a login can reach. I found it. A single-story house. 1 fatality. I read the fatality's name, and the floor of my stomach dropped straight through the earth. Because the name on the fire report, the little girl who died at 14 Alder Hollow Road in the winter of 2011, was Nora Reyes. My sister's name was Nora Cole. We didn't live on Alder Hollow. We lived on Briar Street, on the other side of town. Our fire was a different fire. A different year. 2009, not 2011. A different house entirely. There were two of us. 2 little girls, 2 burned houses, 2 big siblings who ran. Nora Reyes died in a house I'd never set foot in, 2 years and 3 miles from the one where my Nora died, and she was calling me. Not because I'd known her, because I was the only person in the world who would understand. I want to describe what that felt like, because it wasn't fear at first. It was recognition. It was the sick, magnetic pull of finding out you are not the only one. Somewhere out there, somewhere nowhere, was another child who'd been told don't move, I'm coming back, and who'd done exactly as she was told, and who'd waited and waited in a room full of rising dark water for a promise that never came back through the door. And she had spent 14 years reaching for the one number in the county that a person in that kind of pain might dial. 14 years of ringing an empty office at 3:33 in the morning, the minute of her death, and getting no one, because the nightline is only one voice, and that voice was never me. Until it was. She hadn't been calling to be saved. She'd been calling to be believed. I decided I was going to go there, to the lot. I know how that sounds. I'd been awake for the better part of 3 days. I was chasing a phone call the computer said never happened, and I decided the reasonable next step was to drive to a vacant field at 3 in the morning and talk to it. But I need you to understand, I had been running from a burning house for 14 years. My whole adult life had been the sound of my own footsteps on a staircase, going the wrong way. And here was a door I could finally walk toward. I told Delia I was taking the next night off. She looked relieved. "Good," she said. "Sleep, please, Sam. You're scaring me. I didn't sleep. I drove." Alder Hollow Road is out past where the streetlights give up. My headlights found the address on a leaning mailbox, the number 14 half-eaten by rust. Behind it, exactly as the county promised, was nothing. A rectangle of frost-killed weeds. A darker patch in the middle where, if you knew to look, you could still make out the outline of a foundation, like the chalk line around a body that was carried away a long time ago. I got out. The cold was the kind that gets into your fillings. I stood at the edge of where a house used to be, and I felt like the biggest fool in the state of a grown man talking to a field. I said, "Nora?" And it's stupid. I know her name was Nora Reyes and my sister was Nora Cole, and it's a common name and it means nothing. But standing in that dead field, I couldn't separate the two of them anymore. Every Nora who ever waited in a burning room was the same girl to me. I said her name into the dark, and the dark did not answer, and I felt something in my chest start to come apart, some load-bearing wall I'd built at 12 years old. I sank down into the frozen weeds where the front door would have been, and I said the thing I had driven 3 miles into nowhere to say. I said the thing I could never say to my own sister, because my own sister was a name on a stone and stones don't listen. "I came back," I said. "I'm sorry it took so long. I'm sorry I ran. I came back." And my phone, the one in my jacket pocket, my personal phone, that I had told no one to call, lit up in the dark and began to ring. The screen said one word. I don't have a contact saved as home. I've never saved a contact as home. I don't have a home. I have an apartment with a mattress on the floor and a job that starts at midnight. I answered it because there was nothing left in me that could not answer it. And the little girl's voice said, so gently, so kindly, the way you'd speak to someone much younger than you, "You're finally here. It's okay. You can stop looking for me now. I found you," I whispered. "I found your house. I came back for you." "No, Sammy," she said. And I felt the ground under me go strange, felt the whole field breathe in. Because no one on this earth calls me Sammy. My mother is dead. Nora is dead. Sammy died in a house on Briar Street with the only 2 people who ever used it. "You didn't find my house," she said. "You found the address they gave you. You found the last place your feet ever touched." "What are you talking about? You never made it down the stairs, Sammy." Her voice was breaking, but it wasn't fear. It was grief. It was 14 years of grief in a 6-year-old's voice. You went back for me. You did come back. You always came back. You just never came back out. I need to tell you about the fire on Briar Street the way I actually remember it, and not the way I've told it for 14 years. Because there are 2 versions in me, and I've only ever let you hear one. In the version I tell, the one I told you at the start, my legs carry me down the stairs and out the front door, and I live, and I hate myself for living. That's the story I take to the Nightline every shift. The coward brother who ran. But there's another version. It comes to me sometimes in the half-second before sleep, and I shove it back down because it can't be true. It can't be, because if it were true, then who is the man driving to work at midnight? Who is the voice that answers the phone? In the other version, I hear Nora call out, "Sammy, I'm scared, I can't see, and I don't run down the stairs. I turn around. I go back into the smoke. I get to her doorway, and the heat is a wall, and I say, I've got you, hold on to me." And the ceiling comes down, both of us, under the window. Where they found us. They found us. I have spent 14 years as the brother who ran because the alternative, the truth, was a thing I could not carry and keep walking. So I built a version where I lived. I got a job. I got an apartment with a mattress on the floor. I took the hardest calls at 3 a.m, the ones nobody else could take, and I was so good at them, I was warm enough to keep anyone on the line for 1 more minute. Because I have all the minutes in the world. Because I am not going anywhere. Because I have not gone anywhere since 2009. "You've been keeping people company," the little girl said. And now I understood she wasn't a stranger at all. She was the same as me. She was every child in every burned room, and she had been calling that office for years to reach the only kind of person who could still hear her. Another one who stayed. Another one who never came back out. "The office isn't a place for the living, Sammy," she said. "Not the night shift. Delia knows. Delia's known for a long time. She keeps the lights on for you. She lets you think you're clocking in." I thought about Delia's face when I said I was taking the night off. Relieved. "You're scaring me." I thought about how, in 3 years of night shifts, I had never once seen the sun come up in that office, because my shift ended at 6, and I always left before 6, and I could not for the life of me remember a single drive home. I thought about how the call logs were empty, not because the calls never happened, because I was the one on the line the living couldn't log. "Why now?" I asked. It was all I had left. "Why did you call me now?" "Because you're ready now," she said. "You said the words. You came back. And there's a girl coming to your desk tomorrow night. New. Young. She lost somebody too. She's going to sit down at midnight and she's going to be so alone. Sammy. She's going to be as alone as we were in those rooms." Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Somebody has to keep her company, but you can't do it and still be looking for me. You've been split in 2 for 14 years. Half of you working the line, half of you on that staircase, running. I came to tell you that you can stop running now. You already stayed. You stayed with me. You've always stayed with me. And in the frozen field at the outline of a stranger's front door, I finally let the wall come down. I let myself remember turning around. I let myself remember going back up the stairs. I let myself be the brother I actually was, instead of the coward I'd sentenced myself to be. And God, the relief of it. You cannot imagine the relief. 14 years of hating a version of myself who never even existed. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I'll stay for her. I'll take the call." "I know you will," said the little girl who was me, and Nora, and every Nora. "You always answer." The field went quiet. My phone screen went dark, and for the first time since I was 12 years old, I was not on a staircase. I was just a voice in the dark, warm enough to keep someone company for 1 more minute. I was finally entirely at the desk. The next night, at 11:58, a young woman named Priya let herself into a strip mall office with the sign taken down. It was her first solo shift. Delia had trained her for 2 weeks and then, that evening, had squeezed her hand and said something strange on the way out the door. "You're never really alone on nights. You'll see. The good ones stay." And then Delia had left, and the lights had hummed, and Priya had sat down at the desk that everyone quietly called Sam's, though no one could ever tell her which Sam, or when he'd worked there, or why his coffee mug was still in the drainer with the dust of years on it. She'd taken this job for a reason. Everyone takes this job for a reason. Hers had a name, and the name was a brother, and the brother was gone, and she had promised herself she would be the voice she wished someone had been for him. She was terrified. She sat in the dark and the empty, and she thought, "I can't do this. I'm going to fail somebody. I'm going to be alone in here when a life is on the line, and I'm going to fail." And at exactly 3:33 in the morning, the phone rang. An address flashed on her screen. She read it out of the training, out of the habit they drill into you. Before she even said hello, the address on the screen was a strip mall, an office with the sign taken down. A place, the little red flag said, that had been condemned and cleared years ago. It was the address she was sitting in. Her hand shook as she pressed the headset. Hi, you've reached the Nightline. My name's Priya. I'm here, and I've got all the time in the world. What's going on tonight? And a voice, warm, so warm, kind enough to keep anyone on the line for one more minute, and then one more after that, said, "You're doing great, Priya. You're not alone in there. I promise. I'm not going anywhere." She would work that desk for the next 40 years. She would take the hardest calls, the 3 in the morning ones, and she would always, somehow, know exactly what to say. People would ask her how she never burned out, how she stayed so warm in the dark for so long. And she'd smile, and she'd say the truest thing she knew. The good ones stay.